Of Transport and Infrastructure Day here today on the Business Breakfast. I don't think I've ever said that before. And fortunately, we have a transportation expert in the studio. Roger Cruickshank is Senior Director and the Transportation Lead for the Middle East at AtkinsRéalis. Roger, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
So let's actually start with a big project that's not here and move our way into what we're seeing in Dubai. The Riyadh Metro has begun operations. It's the first phase. For those who don't know Riyadh, what's that covering?
So there are 6 lines in total. That's 176 kilometres, 85 stations. And over the next 6 to 8 weeks, the 6 lines will be gradually opened to the public in order for them to get a first glimpse of what public transport really is for the city of Riyadh.
Right. I had actually the Deputy Mayor for Iconic Projects from the Riyadh municipality on stage for a fireside chat recently, and he was talking about the rapid urbanisation of Riyadh, the growing population. Talk to me about why Riyadh needs this and how you plan for a city that's growing at pace.
Yes, so Riyadh has plans to significantly increase its population from its kind of present 8 million to perhaps well into the 12 to 15 million. And as I was speaking yesterday on the Big 5 conference, public transport has to be the backbone of any kind of city planning that moves forward. And certainly for Riyadh, as it looks to expand, it has to provide key options for people just beyond the private car. So rapid urban sprawl needs now, it wasn't maybe in the past, but needs now to be supported by a very strong transport system and, most importantly, a public transport system that's available to all. Okay,
so what are you guys projecting, because obviously you're involved in this project, that this can do for Riyadh's roads?
So what the hope is that obviously that people will see the Riyadh Metro as a choice that they can make from their home to where they want to go. It's quite an extensive system, both north, south, east and west. And so there's the ability to change trains between lines in order to make your way from A to B. So the hope is that with complementary buses and some other facilities that they're putting in, that people will be able to make an end-to-end journey within a relatively, at least, competitive to what the road system is now.
What do we know about how much something like a metro can impact the roads in terms of what percentage of cars or traffic or time it can take out of it?
The hope is that 3 or 4 million people will use the system, and therefore, we would hope to see a 10 or a 15% decrease in key, corridors, possibly better in 1 or 2 other areas, depending on how popular and what happens going forward. But yes, the expectation is that the public transport system will provide that alternative, and therefore people will use that instead of their cars, and therefore we will see some reduction across the city.
Which brings us very nicely to another rapidly growing urban population, which is Dubai, and the news, if you are just waking up and joining us this morning, that the RTA has announced variable road toll or Salik pricing. Why is it doing this?
So Plan 2040 for Dubai is all about making a sustainable and indeed, good, livable and quality of life city. But in doing that, there has to be a balance in all those demands. And so the dynamic pricing is introduced, like it has been done in Singapore and elsewhere, is to give people, again, choice about how they make their journey and at what time. And in doing so, this is what we would call peak spreading, and it helps to sort of ease some of that factors that we're having at the moment, that people are maybe using the roads too much at a certain period of time, and therefore there's just a bit too much congestion. By spreading out when people could actually make the journey, that should ease some sort of hotspots that we're currently experiencing in Dubai.
Yeah, so weekdays we're going to have 6 dirham tolls basically during the peak times in the morning and at night. From what you've seen elsewhere, how well does it work?
Yes, I mean, I think, as I say, what's happening in London, what's happening in Singapore, there's definitely been a change in how people behave. It's even worth highlighting, even in Dubai, I would suggest to you on a Thursday and a Friday, there is a different pattern of travel than there is on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We've also got now, or we're going to get from February, a variable parking tariff policy. Again, during peak times, parking is going to go up, public paid parking spaces in certain areas, and a congestion pricing policy, funnily enough, given that you and I have both been at the Big Five, 25 dirhams an hour for public paid parking spaces near event zones, and it's going to start with where we both were, the Dubai World Trade Centre. How does that ease traffic flow?
So what it does is it provides further sort of thinking about how you will actually make your journey. I know people that now have never made a journey into central London over the last, say, 20 years because they've seen that there have been other opportunities to do that. Now, it's to be admitted, RTA will be continuing to kind of introduce other transport systems to help us get around. They've announced the trackless tram. They've announced further enhancements of the bus system. So the hope is that, yes, it may cost you more to be in zones, but those zones will also be served by better public transport or more alternatives to public transport, and therefore it should balance between that. We'll have to make choice. I mean, when I travel now, even in my business, I'm ensuring that I'm maybe staying at a hotel that's more close to where I need to be rather than perhaps where I'm allocated, so to speak. People have to start thinking, and I will take it personally. My son is learning to drive. He wants to drive, but my daughter doesn't want to drive at all. She sees public transport and the way she gets around on a Kareem and an Uber as convenient as someone who wants to drive.
I know we're going to get messages in. And so I'm going to preempt them with the two things that people always say when this comes up. Number one is cost of living. How do you set a price that is enough to nudge behaviour, but not enough to penalise those who don't necessarily have another choice because of where they live to get in? I mean, Tom here is at the safari park. With all the love in the world to the Metro, they're not picking him up at 4:30 in the morning. So how do you set that?
So, yeah, look, most of this is done with all the data that's available to us around, affordability. So we are looking at how people move and work around the cities. We are looking at where neighbourhoods have focused opportunity and also the affordability of that. Yes, that's definitely a balance that needs to be struck, but I would suggest to you the fares that are being charged in the Middle East are very much lower than is being charged in other parts of the world. At the moment for Riyadh Metro, it will be 4 riyals for you to make one journey, but it'll be 20 riyals for you to have a 3-day pass. So I think there will be an encouragement for you to have a longer kind of opportunity around a 7-day ticket or whatever, rather than a daily journey, which will definitely be more affordable.
Roger Cruickshank is a transportation lead for the Middle East and a senior director at AtkinsRéalis, talking all things transport logistics with us this morning.